Well.
This is Aiden from Nacogdoches, Texas, and you're watching my favorite show, GameSpot TV.
Today on GameSpot TV, is your PC COVID with Quake 3? If not, don't worry. We have a few tips to get your gaming machine up to speed. And take care, he's sneaking around in your PC. Yes, Garrett is back in the shadows in our review of Thief 2. And we have the review of Dead or Alive 2. It looks great and plays even better. Tecmo has definitely come up with a winner. Stick around. It's GameSpot.
Hello and welcome to GameSpot TV. I'm Adam Setzler. Now, anyone playing PC games knows that the newer games are making more and more demands on your computer's hardware, and it's a little difficult to try and keep up. And how do you decide the best way to improve your game performance? Well, to answer these questions, we caught up with top ZDTV lab rat, James Kim. Well, James, let's say I have to upgrade my PC. I have a P2 233, and I want to give it more punch. Given the way the games are now, let's look at memory. Is 64 megs of RAM appropriate enough for playing games?
It's sufficient, but overall you want to add the RAM. Extra RAM doesn't hurt, and anywhere from 96 to 128.
All right, graphics cards. Let's just start. What does the graphics card do as opposed to the microprocessor?
They take a lot of the burden off of the processor. They have their own processing units on the card itself. That's why you'll see fans and heat sinks, because they get very hot. They have their own graphics chips.
Oh, yeah! Now, if I'm playing games, say, like under a tournament, is frame rate the big issue in that game, or looking at the 32 versus 16-bit resolution?
The most important factor here is frame rate, especially when you're online. Games like Flight Simulator, where detail and things are moving very slowly, and you want to be able to see all the lines in exactly the way they were supposed to be represented, those require a little more graphics crunching, less frame rate power.
Right here we have the TNT2 card. This is one that's in many people's machines. So what's it made up of, and what does people love it?
It's just a good all-around card. If you look here, this is a heat sink. So these chips underneath there, they're generating a lot of heat here. If you look at this card right here, this is based on the GeForce 256 chip.
What is it that makes it such a powerful graphics card?
A lot of things. The chip itself, you're able to, there's new texture and lighting mapping.
Okay.
These are things that are going to take advantage of way down the line.
But even now, when you're playing a game like Quake 3 Arena, you really have these new textures that really haven't been seen before, that are very detailed.
Exactly.
Is this able to grow upon that?
Definitely. Existing games and future forward.
Now, a lot of people already have their graphics cards, and they're looking at something else to try to boost up their system, and there's sound cards available. So we have the Diamond, and we have the Creative Lab sound cards. What should the gamer be looking out for?
They're both high-quality multi-channel cards, which will allow for hooking up like four satellite speakers to create that 3D environment. Today, 3D games, the audio is an integral part of the experience. So anyone without a sound card or a decent sound card should upgrade. Bundle that with a couple speakers. These particular pair right here come with a subwoofer. These are ultra thin. They're very directional. They're not, we like four satellites to create that total environment. So these are really good because they really pinpoint the sound towards you.
Are there any more sort of frivolous peripherals that are available out there?
These are the 3D Revelator glasses from Elza. We reviewed these on Freshgate too. Basically, the combination of software and hardware allows you to take most games and turn them into 3D games. So when you see the game on the screen, it's a little blurry.
Like a 3D movie.
But when you put these on, you're just totally thrown into a 3D environment. I used that using Simulator 3, and it was pretty amazing.
Well, thank you very much, Dan.
Glad to help.
So I guess with that advice, in a couple of years I might actually be able to play my copy of Trespasser, assuming I wanted to. And if that glimpse of Thief brought back such fond memories, stick around, we have the review of Thief 2 later on in the show. But first, let's check the game news.
Sega announced recently that consumers who sign up to the new Sega.com ISP will receive either a free Dreamcast console or $200 rebate for their existing Dreamcast system. Subscribers will also receive a free Dreamcast keyboard and a Dreamcast mouse later in the year. Subscription terms require subscribers to sign up for 2 years of service at $21.95 per month. Sega says the service will launch soon after August 1st. In other news, Quake 3 Arena is set to be released for the Dreamcast, and this will be the first time that PC gamers can play against console gamers via network gameplay. The title is expected to ship later this year. And for all you Buffy fans out there, Fox Interactive has announced its plans to publish Buffy the Vampire Slayer for the PlayStation, Dreamcast, and PC. The game will be a third-person action-adventure game and is scheduled for a fall 2000 release.
Well, if you'd like to keep yourself further updated on all the goings-on in the gaming industry, point your browser to the GameSpot website. And if you'd like to review all our advice on turning that rumbling old PC into a svelte gaming machine, then go to the GameSpot TV website and see our upgrade feature again in streaming video and read a spotlight article by ZDTV lab rat James Kim.
Coming up on GameSpot TV, we go into the shadows to see what Garrett is up to. The thief is back in a new adventure, and we have the review.
Welcome back. The original Thief was considered one of the best PC games of 1998. It was fashioned like a shooter, but it had a twist. The game de-emphasized combat in favor of sneaking around in the darkness undetected. And like all successful games, it has a sequel now. But it looks like it's a welcome return.
If Thief 2 has a real problem, it's that it's too similar to the original Thief. That's not a bad thing, though, considering how good the original Thief was. Nonetheless, the game reuses many of Thief's elements, like the mission briefing screens. This is all made up for it, though, in the game's excellent mission design, which is among the best in any game to date. The designers have gone to great lengths to emphasize the thieving element in the gameplay for the sequel. The 16 missions involve breaking into mansions and burglarizing storage warehouses, among other tasks. One of the wonderful elements is that there is rarely any one correct path to take. It's left up to your ingenuity, providing a wonderful sense of satisfaction upon completion. All of these missions are much longer and more involved. They take place in some enormous environments, though as a result, there are far longer load times. The highly detailed missions are what make the story itself seem weak in comparison to the original. Once again, Garrett is reluctantly forced to stop a great evil. The story is very linear and doesn't use the opportunity to fully explain the fascinating world that the game takes place in. The game has some new elements, like a scouting orb and a mechanical eye, but they aren't terribly useful. The fact that there's not much new, though, isn't a big complaint, since the original was so good. Though the engine is slightly dated and the story is weaker, on the whole, Thief 2 is a better game. GameSpot gives it an 8.6 out of 10.
Now, as we mentioned earlier, the Thief games are all about the audio. You need to listen carefully to the action around you when you're hunkering down in the shadows. So if you're interested in playing the game, check to see if your sound card is up to scratch. Now, while the Thief 2 followed hot on the heels of the original, the same can't be said for Force Commander. It's been languishing for quite some time in development, as is evidenced by its connection to the earlier Star Wars films. And now, this real-time strategy game has been released. But if you've been holding your breath, well...
2 years ago, Force Commander's graphics would have been state-of-the-art. The design of the AT-STs and sandcrawlers looked like they did in the films. At the same time, though, the structures are simple shapes lacking much detail, and the terrain is similarly unimpressive. Visually, the least impressive element is the on-screen interface, which takes up about a third of the screen. The interface looks unfinished, and its functions are nondescript and counterintuitive. The game also suffers from some serious camera problems. The view default is set up so that the AT-STs look nice, but it's entirely non-functional for gameplay purposes. You'll primarily use it zoom back and raise high like any other real-time strategy game. As a result, most units will shrink to a minuscule size, and you'll have to squint to find them during battles. The game is fun to play sometimes. Battles are fast-paced, and your units do a good job of defending your interests. The game also has some unique play mechanics where units and structures are acquired through command points earned primarily by killing enemy units and completing secondary objectives. Reinforcements are supplied from orbit, so you can get them into the action very quickly, but it takes a long time for your units to get anywhere due to their poor pathfinding and slow speed that cannot be adjusted. Force Commander does have a very involved campaign, but in the end, the graphics, camera, and other problems make it very difficult to recommend. GameSpot gives it a 6 out of 10.
Now, if you need to check out Force Commander for yourself or you just can't get enough of Thief 2, come to the GameSpot TV website and check out our streaming video footage of both games. And if you're feeling really crazy, send us your own opinion on games with a V-mail, and you might have your face on GameSpot TV.
Coming up on GameSpot TV, grinding on the coattails of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater comes Street Skater 2. You can't do much worse than the original, but is it worth more than a rental?
Welcome back. Last year's Street Skater was one of the first skateboarding games to come out in a long time, and it didn't exactly do wonders in trying to revitalize the genre. Well, the sequel is out now, and it is better, but Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is in most people's PlayStations, so is the game good enough?
Much of Street Skater 2 is a race against time as you attempt to get from point A to point B in a particular number of seconds. The catch is, you need to finish the course in time while also attaining a certain level of points by performing tricks. The game can be seen as an attempt to strike a balance between speed and style. The level design in the game is nice. It contains mini ramps and objects to ollie over and grind on, as well as smack into. The levels also offer shortcuts, as well as a variety of breakable objects. You can pick from a few different skaters, each of which has a set number of tricks. But executing tricks isn't that difficult, as your skater homes in on the lip of what you're skating on, making it rather difficult to wreck in a pipe. The trick is to hold down L1 and R1 as your air horn. Then start jamming on as many directions and buttons as possible, and then let go of L1 and R1 before you land. The game will automatically straighten you out, making this almost too easy. On top of this, there's also an auto trick mode to even further reduce the challenge. Graphically, the game is an improvement over its predecessor, but nowhere near as fluid as Tony Hawk. Moves just don't transition well into one another. Street Skater 2 would seem better if another, far superior game called Tony Hawk Pro Skater didn't exist. That said, it has some merit, and it is a good way to kill time until Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. Videogames.com gives it a 7 out of 10.
Now moving on from something physical to something mental, this is the next game from the Sonic team, the people who brought us the Sonic franchise, and nice. Now while ChuChu Rocket might not be as grand as those titles, it teaches you that Tetris and Bomberman are not the end-all be-all of puzzle games.
Controlling your chaos is the key to making a classic puzzle game, and Sega's ChuChu Rocket follows on this tradition. ChuChu Rocket is a puzzle game based around the internal conflict of cat versus mouse. The player's job is to guide mice into their rocket, and whoever has the most mice in the end wins. This is done by laying arrow tiles on the ground and guiding any character that walks across it. But beware of the cats, for they'll try to consume your mice and your score. The simplicity of the game's premise helps make the game easy to learn. Spicing up the game are the pink mystery mice. These mice create a random effect whenever one enters a ship. Mouse or cat populations might skyrocket, rockets can switch places, cats might be given to your opponents, and things might slow down, speed up, or even freeze temporarily. The variety of modes is one of ChuChu Rocket's strong points. The regular game can have up to 4 players, computer or human. There's also a team version where you pair off, a puzzle mode, and there's even an edit mode that allows for customizing your own puzzles. Sonic Team has achieved a rare feat, a party experience that draws in friends for potentially limitless head-to-head action. VideoGames.com gives ChuChu Rocket an 8.2 out of 10.
ChuChu Rocket is also the first game you can play online through the Dreamcast network. But there are some problems with it. It takes a very long time to join a game, and once in there is a significant lag time between hitting a button and having that action register on screen. Now, High Heat Baseball for the PC was one of the favorite PC baseball games of last year. It's returned now with Sammy Sosa's name attached to it, but the gameplay is still intact.
The fever's pitch of baseball season is upon us, and the latest version of High Heat Baseball hits home with a series of improvements over last year's edition. Though still flawed, Sammy Sosa looks to be the favorite of baseball sims for the PC. Visually, the 2001 version has been improved in a number of ways. Big players look big, and little players look appropriately petite. Other new animations include outfielders who smack into walls and drop their balls as a result, and diving fielders who hold up their gloves to show they made a catch. On the downside, while some players actually have their own faces, others have the standard expressionless face of a lesser athlete. As fans of High Heat know from prior experience, it isn't the game's graphics that make it the MVP of baseball games. It's the realism of the on-field action. For example, players perform as they would on the true diamond, hitting for power when necessary, and they even register accurate win-loss records on the mound. The computer opponent plays a crafty game. You never know when it'll surprise you with a sneaky move. Dramatic pitcher-battle confrontations can leave you in a bind to find the right pinch hitter and bullpen ace. As good as the game is, there are still a few flaws and bugs that need fixing. The computer pitchers can hit their corners regularly, but it's extremely difficult for the human players to do so, which makes for a lot of balls instead of strikes. Not fair. Not only that, but even when you try and throw lousy pitches, you end up tossing some serious home run balls right down the middle. Many of these problems stem from the game's sketchy controls. Aside from these minor irritations, 2001 is essentially an improvement over last year's offering, curveball notwithstanding. GameSpot.com gives Sammy Sosa's High Heat Baseball 2001 an 8.7 out of 10.
If you can't satiate your appetite for GameSpot TV reviews, come to the GameSpot TV website where you can check out C2, ChuChu Rocket, and Sammy Sosa's High Heat Baseball 2001. And while you're there, tell us what you think is more hardcore on our poll, PC gaming or console gaming or checkers.
Coming up on GameSpot TV, Soul Calibur has a contender in Tecmo's new masterpiece for the Dreamcast. We have a review of Dead or Alive 2. And we add more mileage to Crazy Taxi with some amusing cheat codes.
Welcome back. The original Dead or Alive caught many gamers' attention with its innovative fighting system and its innovative character design. The well-respected Sega Saturn version never made it to U.S. consoles, though a lesser version did make it to the PlayStation. Well, now the sequel is out for the Dreamcast, with both innovations embellished upon, and the result is something to behold.
Dead or Alive 2 shows that Tecmo has raised the bar on its own expectations to create a fighting game for the fighting game-happy Dreamcast that even exceeds elements of the incomparable Soul Calibur. Immediately noticeable is the use of multi-tiered environments. If you're too close to a ledge or a stained glass window, you can fly through and land 5 stories below with a sixth of your life bar missing. Also present are uneven surfaces on which to fight, which may not be innovative, but have considerable effect on your strategies. The game also has the Tekken Tag Tournament Tag Battle Mode, which lets up to 4 characters engage in on-screen mayhem. With the tap of the tag button, you can switch back and forth between characters, allowing the one taken out to recover health. Familiarity between characters allows you to find a good balance between partners, which can create devastating combo options. The game is also one of the few reasons to have 4 Dreamcast controllers. The fighting mechanics in the game have taken the ability to counter an opponent's attack with the free button and expanded on it. Now the player must anticipate whether the attack will be high, medium, or low range to effectively launch a counterattack. Timing is also an issue, as hitting the button too early or too late can leave you painfully open. As you may imagine, Dead or Alive 2 is one of those games where button mashers don't last very long. The graphics are simply amazing and include stunning facial detail. The environments are equally well designed, all in resolution to make Sonic weep. One should note that Dead or Alive 2 is for hardcore gamers only. The story mode is laughable, and it doesn't have the cachet of options and unlockables like Soul Calibur, but all that is made up for in reams and reams of nuanced gameplay. VideoGames.com gives it a 9.7 out of 10.
To help you enjoy more eye candy, our intro of the week comes from Galarians. This game plays like Resident Evil, but it has some Akira influences. Sounds interesting? Check it out. Definitely one of the best games to come out this winter was Crazy Taxi for the Dreamcast. Now, those of you who want it probably already have it, but here are some cheats to help spruce it up and get even more mileage out of the game.
If you're too lazy to complete Crazy Taxi's Crazy Box, here's the cheat that shows you what you're missing. On the Tabby Select screen, press and hold L. Then while holding L, press and hold R. Release L, release R. Repeat this 2 more times. Before the time runs out, choose your cabbie. Then you will hear a bell chime.
We're gonna have some fun.
When the city loads, you'll find yourself in this snazzy bite-drawn cart. And it's not just any bite-drawn cart. This puppy's stats are better than the other cabs, though its traction is terrible. If you want a real Crazy Taxi challenge, on the Cabbie Select screen, hit the R trigger once. Then hold it down while selecting your cabbie. The message, Another Day, will appear. This allows you to play in a mode where you'll find your passengers wanting new destinations.
For more tips and tricks, go to the Game Help section of the GameSpot TV website. And while you're there, be sure to check out our extended Galarians coverage. And don't forget to join me in a chat every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and we can argue about what's hot and what's not. So until next time, bye-bye.